I was gonna tag soon. So basically, over the last couple of days, over the last month, I've been afflicted by, we'll call it depression. It's really not depression. It's separate. It's nowhere close to the medical definition or the bouts of it that I would have identified with in the past. But we'll call it that. It's similar. It's a metaphysical depression. It's a metaphysical rot, and it's basically all been centered around the idea of wasted time. The idea of I missed my chance. I had these 2 years that were me developing into the state which I'm at now, the spiritual state which I'm at now, which would have perfectly encapsulated the spiritual journey, which was the whole point. It was the whole point of my YouTube channel, and I was thinking about it the whole time. The whole point is to capture the spiritual journey. And then somehow, the whole time while thinking about capturing the spiritual journey, I simultaneously thought, but we'll record a video whenever it's done, whenever the philosophy's done, whenever the framework is complete and we have all the answers. Somehow I thought both of those things simultaneously, and now I'm at the point where 2 years later, framework still isn't done, and I still made a fucking video, and it's a lot of wasted goddamn time. And that's been leading to an extreme malaise. Multiple solutions. One of the most interesting solutions is rage. Extreme anger is a much better motivator than the... It's not just about my lack of creating videos. It's been a feeling of just hopelessness, where it's like, not only did I miss the boat, but I'm not even sure if there ever was a boat. I'm legitimately not sure if human beings are intelligent enough to do what is right, what is logical. I'm not sure if, even if I was capable of disseminating my thoughts into language, if there would be enough people which identified with it. There's the obvious concerns of the algorithm never being able to see you, but I'm not even concerned about that anymore. My issue would be that the algorithm does pick me up, that the biggest I would ever even be able to get is a micro community of 300,000 people who watch me, and that wouldn't even be because I was stunted by the algorithm. It would be because my ideas are just too niche. It's not due to my inability to articulate my ideas. It's due to an inability for humanity to be able to pick up on the ideas. And this goes back to the idea I was talking about before, which was the education. But if the education needs to be solved before my ideas can be disseminated into the masses, then what's the point of me speaking in the first place? If there needs to be an educational reform before I'm capable of speaking and anyone is capable of hearing me, then everything I say is pointless. I need to focus on the educational reform first, but the educational reform can never happen without people being educated. So I would need to disseminate my thoughts in a way where you get people interested in the reform of education through their newfound education. And this is where things get extremely complicated in the speeches I'm using. What I mean is, I'm going to use the word enlightenment. Whenever people become enlightened or educated, they're going to have the desire to replicate this enlightenment or understanding through the education system. This replication of enlightenment is going to fix all of these root issues which humanity is plagued by currently. But the hopelessness that I experience is a genuine longing, a genuine question of, is it possible? And the nihilistic answer would be, it's not possible. Humans are too stupid. And then there's two other pathways. One is that even if we are too stupid now, perhaps technology could influence us in the future. Or the one that I think is true is that humans are capable of understanding, but that the modern brood of humanity is not capable. That the computational limits of the human brain are capable, every human is capable of running what I'm talking about, but that due to the modern day constraints of what people understand, the frameworks which people actually run through on a day-to-day basis, that no one will ever actually be able to engage with what I talk about in any meaningful way. And that's horrific. it doesn't just give me a malaise for myself, but it gives me a desire to abstain from life at all. Just classic nihilism. Just not just a desire for myself to not exist, not just a misery in existence, but the feeling that not only is my existence horrible, but that everyone's existence is horrible, that I could maybe even see the solution out of it, but that there is no actual practical way to change the world into something better. And that just makes me stagnate completely. The obvious trap of nihilism, you just stop. Your wheels are too cut up in the mud. But it's interesting. There are multiple ways out of it, and one of the ways is through the framework, but that's extremely difficult because if you don't have the motivation to run the framework properly, or in my case, you don't have the fucking time, then the malaise fights back. Another way is rage, which is extremely interesting. That the best way to address this issue seems to be... It's interesting because... let me try and establish this pattern real quick. It's interesting because... The malaise doesn't just come from the understanding that I may never be able to actually affect the population. It's so much deeper than the fact that I may not be able to affect the population. It's the fact that I used to have been able to affect population more, or at least I thought I was more capable of affecting the population. And in the same way that we've found with frameworks, there's a level of religious rot that if you believe in spirituality because you believe that it is true, then the spirituality will eventually eat itself and not provide you any benefits, and you won't even be able to believe properly. But if you only believe in it insofar as it is efficient, then you will have a much more rigorous and you'll feel it. You'll feel your belief so much deeper. And there's an interesting correlation between that I can't quite articulate yet, but it's there, between that idea and the idea that rage is more potent in these situations. It's like, and that all ties back into the fact that I'm not capable of articulating it like I used to. Like, the worst part of the malaise isn't just feeling like there's 2 years gone, but it's that I'm not even as good as I was at 16. I can't articulate things in the same way I could at 16. I don't have the same God complex. I don't feel like Plato anymore, like you were saying. And that is the worst part. It's like, what can I do differently? What did I do wrong? How do I get back? The worst part is knowing what I could be and not being that. That's all I got for right now. I got solutions, but they're complicated. What do I think is the main thing holding us back? I mean, the main thing holding me back is just a lack of discipline. I can't focus. I can't, like, I'm even now, I'm telling you, man. Oh, I was so close. Oh, before I moved down here, I was so close. So close. I was back. I was at it. I was at the God complex level of, like, I don't know if you remember the messages I sent, but, like, every week I was sending you, like, I'm back, I'm better than ever, and I meant it. More than I have in years. I meant it. I meant that shit. I was back, and I was better than ever. And I'm not now. But that's because of stress. And the last 2 days I've had moments with the hand framework that fix it. That fix everything. But then the malaise creeps back in, and it's like, too late, wasted too much time. But I've found the solution to that today, which is the obvious one, the one we've had for years, which is you need to fold up. You need to understand that the thought that you're having, which says that you've wasted 2 years, you need to understand that that thought is not you. That thought, you want to go with the awareness one, that's fine, but you go with the God one. That thought is just a particular experience held by God. I mean, really, that is what it comes down to. It's like, what is our main problem? I know what my main problem is. I'm a fucking loser who can't do what I preach. I can't. But it's very clear why. I say that, but I say that because I have to hold myself to these harsh standards. I do also see exactly why this is happening with the stress of moving. Like, that is exactly why I've been less efficient over the last month. And I was getting back to it before that point. But the fact that I wasn't capable of staying disciplined is frustrating. The fact that I wasn't capable of maintaining my frameworks through the move is debilitating. Because it's like, the whole point of the framework is to be able to maintain it in stressful situations. And I, the God Emperor King, was not even capable of maintaining it in a stressful situation. Which makes me tonight's biggest loser.
What are your main stresses?
It doesn't really work like that. What do you mean? What would you say your main stresses are? Mine wouldn't really work in like a tier list. It would just be like whatever the stress is at that moment. So it's like last night at work, like yesterday I had like a good day at work. When it was like, oh, tomorrow will actually be like the good one, like the perfect one. Where it's like I actually, like last night could have been the perfect night at work if it wasn't for my boss rushing me. Because I had a good bike ride beforehand. I had a solid 2 hours that answered a lot of questions. I've been working up to everything up to that point over the last couple nights of work. It was the third night in a row of work. Everything was leading up to me being able to actually like pull it off last night. And then my boss had to fucking tell me to put up the sausage links with both hands. That's just how the world works, how the world turns, how the cookie fucking crumbles.
Yeah, I guess that's like real world stresses, but what are like intellectual or mental framework stresses?
No, it's only real world stresses. But it's these two things that tie into each other. It's the real world stresses, and it's how much the real world stresses are affecting me, which is, it's jarring me because it's basically understanding that it's like, no normal person will ever be able to do this. It's too impractical. For me, I'll eventually get to the point where I get the framework running, and my life's bliss. I've been there before. Every 3 months I get there, and then I fall out of it again, but I'll get there again. And eventually I'll get it to a point where it sticks, and I don't need to worry about it anymore. I can get there. But it's so scary that I'm still fighting with it. That I'm 2 years in, and that I still don't have a framework running. And like, no normal person is ever going to have time without stress. No normal person is ever going to have time to run this framework. No normal person is ever going to get a stress-free period to be able to develop their framework enough to get it running. And it's just like, it's those two things in tandem. So if you had to ask me what is my biggest intellectual stress, my biggest intellectual stress is that my real world stresses are affecting me this much. That's terrifying. Because it means everything that I've been doing is almost worthless. But that's not true, but it is kind of true. It's complicated how true it is, because if I was capable of just through discipline maintaining the framework, I'm not such a fucking idiot. I would have sat down at any point over the first week I was here, and I would have meditated, sat down and fucking thought for 15 minutes straight. But I'm a jackass who decided to instead every day do fucking 16 milliliters of marijuana and then get fucking tired, and then when I would have sat down, I was fucking brain dead, and that was retarded on my part. But also, to be fair, that was also for a reason. Nothing I do is completely aimless. The reason I did that was because some of the best religious experiences I've ever had are of large quantities of Sub-Zero, and I was trying to get a fucking jump start, and they work for that as a jump start, and I needed one after I moved down here, and I was fucking giga stressed, and I tried doing small amounts, and it didn't work because of the real world stress. So I tried doing large amounts, what I should have done, and it's true, I should have done, is I should have just sat down, large amount, small, it didn't matter. I should have sat down and meditated, because I wasn't capable of getting into any sort of repetition because we only had one bike battery, which meant that I wasn't capable of creating a consistent, I need a consistent running of a framework, a rigorous running of a framework to get started enough where it's in a running state. It's like a dirt bike, right? If you leave your dirt bike out in the rain for like fucking 2 years, like what I did for the last month, then you're going to get to the point where the dirt bike can't run anymore without maintenance. And you need to sit down, ride, and you need to, on this good sit down or this good bike ride, you need to repair the dirt bike until the dirt bike functions. That was a confusing analogy because there was both a bike and a bike ride. But the point is that you need to repair your framework using a meditation, some sort of meditation, to the point where your framework is actually capable of working in real life. And due to my real life stresses, I neglected my framework maintenance, and that made it where I wasn't capable of actually overcoming my real life stress because my framework was not in good enough working condition. But those two things played into each other, obviously. This is a chicken and the egg situation where it's like, to get over my real world stress, I needed to sit down. But to sit down, I needed less real world stress. And that just comes down to discipline. I should have had a higher tier list. I should have had more priority to sit down and meditate. But yet again, logically, the reason why I didn't have a higher priority to sit down and meditate is because I had just come from Kentucky. And in Kentucky, the bike rides were working fantastically. And I had the realistic reason to believe that the bike rides down here would work the same. It didn't work the same, which is not something that I could have predicted, so it's not entirely my fault. But the whole people being around and the consistent views, made it where bike rides down here, where in Kentucky it was the same path ridden, literally the same fucking 500 feet of road ridden circularly over and over and over and over again, which led for a really good meditative repetition. Down here, the variety and the complexity of the obstacles led to an inability to actually focus on the framework, and that was something that I couldn't have predicted, and I wasn't capable of understanding for the first week until it was too late. And then I'd already settled in, and then there was work, and then everything else, and I was never capable of actually separating the issues and understanding why I was incapable of enforcing a framework. All I knew is that I couldn't. And now, a month later, when I understand the reason why is because I didn't have any time, I didn't have a particular event where previously in my life I would have always